Howdy. This time I'll call a meeting to order of the Building Commission and ask Ms. Ann if you could call the roll.
Certainly. Governor McNally,
Here.
Speaker Sexton,
Here.
Secretary Hargett,
Here.
Comptroller Mumpower,
Here.
Treasurer Lillard,
Here.
Commissioner Bryson,
Here.
Governor Lee. We have a quorum. Governor Lee is absent.
Do we have any requests for public comment?
We have received no request for public comment.
All right, I'll go to the agenda. The first item on the agenda is the consent calendar.
Yes, sir. We'd like to request approval of consent agenda items 1 through 19, which have been reviewed and recommended for approval by commission staff.
We have a motion on that.
So moved.
It's a proper motion,
Second.
properly seconded. Discussion.
Mr. Chair.
Comptroller Mumpower.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I note on the consent calendar today, we have item number 8, which is in regard to a project at Tennessee State University. The project on the consent calendar is funded, as I understand it, completely by federal dollars. Is that correct, Ann?
That is absolutely correct, sir.
No state dollars associated with the project.
No state dollar. It's a grant.
Thank you very much.
Further discussion? Hearing none, I'll ask Ms. Ann to call a roll.
Certainly. Governor McNally,
Yes.
Speaker Sexton,
Aye.
Secretary Hargett, Comptroller Mumpower,
Yes.
Treasurer Lillard,
Aye.
Commissioner Bryson.
Aye.
We have unanimous approval of that item.
Okay, the next item, Ms. Ann.
The next item is for the Department of Economic and Community Development, and we have Commissioner Stuart McWhirter here to present this item.
Commissioner, good to see you again.
Good morning.
Good morning.
We have approval for a project to issue a request for qualifications. This is in reference to the I-24 industrial site in Coffee County that the state acquired earlier this year. And so our request is for approval of the infrastructure improvement project at the site, at I-24 site, to issue a request for qualifications for a consultant to assist with marketing and site development strategies.
Move to approve.
It's a proper motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Properly seconded. Discussion? Hear none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
It's approved. No opposition. Thank you, Commissioner. Next item, please.
Our next item is for the Department of Correction, and we have Commissioner Frank Strada here to present this item.
Commissioner?
Good morning. Good morning, Lieutenant Governor McNally and members of the commission. I'm Frank Strada, Commissioner, Department of Corrections. We're here today seeking approval to issue requests for proposals for the private management and operation of the South Central Correctional Facility. I want to thank the offices of the Attorney General, the State Architect, and the Comptroller for all the assistance they provided us. I also want to let you know we have the required legislative letters with no comments from those committees. Our current agreement with Core Civic expires June 30th, 2025, and this proposed contract term will be from July 1st, 2025 to June 30th, 2028. With that, I ask for your approval to issue the RFP.
Is there a motion? It's a proper motion, properly seconded. Discussion? Hear none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. You adopt. Thank you, Commissioner. Next item, UT.
Yes, our next item is for the University of Tennessee, and we have Senior Vice President and CFO David Miller here to present this item.
Mr. Miller?
Good morning, Commissioners and Speaker. We have one item to request today, and that is the approval of the UT Institute of Agriculture Master Plan. With your permission, I would ask Jessica Leonard from the firm of Ayers St. Gross to make a brief presentation and request approval. Thank you. Jessica?
Perfect. Morning. Thank you for
Good
letting
morning.
me be here to present this exciting project. For context, in 2023, the University of Tennessee Knoxville completed a master plan for the campus that did include the facilities for the College of Ag and College of Vet Med on the Knoxville campus. This UTIA plan extends to include all the statewide assets across the state under UTIA. You can see from this map, the scope is large. It included 28 sites, including the 4-H centers, regional extension offices, the Ag Rec, which is over 28 sites and 21,000 acres across the state. The drivers for the plan were similar to the Knoxville plan. It was focused on growth around research, around STEM education, as well as outreach and extension, as well as facility renewal. So focusing on facilities that have become aging. Good news is the majority of them are able to be renovated with only a few deemed obsolete and needing replacement. The overall needs were just about 180,000 square feet. And so when you think about that compared to one of the large universities, it's quite small, but that represents a number of projects. And we've organized those projects by site and by grouping. So there's buildings that are similar to university buildings like education and STEM, others that are housing for both staff as well as the 4-H centers for students and people that are coming to the camps, as well as venues for events and 4-H activities such as fields and playgrounds, as well as site and infrastructure. So there's different projects across all sites in all regions. And additional to the projects, that land is a very big part of the mission for UTIA. And so while there's no desire to grow and add land, we did want to think about the geographic areas that are within proximity that would still allow for operational management that might include geography, soils, climate that allows for unique research that supports the UTIA mission. The projects in the plan are under 3 phases, including the funded projects that are mostly part of the American Recovery Plan. And then the near-term projects are listed in the 0 to 5 year timeframe. They include new construction, renovation, site infrastructure, as well as security projects, running the gamut across those project types. And then the midterm projects include similar that are really put in the midterm due to priority, but mostly due to the enabling projects that are required in the near term in order to allow those to happen. So that's like the fastest presentation for a year-long 21,000 acre campus.
Thank you. Do we have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Proper motion, properly seconded. Discussion. Hear none. We'll vote. All in favor, say aye. Opposed, nay. You adopt. Thank you. And the next item, Middle Tennessee University.
Certainly. The next item is for Middle Tennessee State University, and we have Vice President of Business and Finance, Alan Thomas, here to present this item.
Good morning, members of the commission.
Good morning.
MTSU's item today is for the university's aerospace campus project. This project provides new facilities to serve the MTSU Department of Aerospace at the Shelbyville Airport. This project represents the first phase of development and provides new facilities serving the MTSU Professional Pilot Program, including a flight operations building and a hangar to maintain MTSU's aviation fleet. MTSU respectfully requests the Commission's approval of the early design phase. At this time, and if agreeable with the Commission, I would like to turn the floor over to Rich McNeil with TM Partners to provide a brief presentation of the project's design.
Mr. McNeil.
Good morning, Commissioners. Thanks for having us today. Rich McNeil with TMP, here to present the MTSU Aerospace Campus. So as you can see, they are moving down to the Shelbyville Municipal Airport, which is down Highway 231 from MTSU's main campus. Their current operations are at the Murfreesboro Airport, and they are outgrowing what they can provide there. So they're moving down to Shelbyville in this greenfield site. As you can see, it's adjacent to the taxiway and the runway of that airport down there. And I want to point out that north is left on all the images you see from this point forward. So the first phase is we're developing the campus out there. It consists of a flight operations building, a 141 hangar building, and 141 simply means maintenance of the aircraft that are utilized for the training. And our project has a training apron as a part of it as well to park all of those planes. Just to the east of that, adjacent to the taxiway, is a current, not part of this project, but under construction leased apron space. So MTSU can start operations out there before this project is complete. We will be able to go through our apron, through that apron to access the taxiway. As you see on the arrows, to the right, we'll be going out to the taxiways, and to the left is coming back in from the flights. Looking at the floor plan of the flight operations building, the main piece is a circulation spine through the building, a 2-story height space that many of the spaces will connect to connect all of the students, for them to mingle, to do what they need to do on a daily basis as far as socializing and for work around throughout the day. You've got the classrooms on the right off of that circulation spine, a food service to come up there. Again, it's a remote campus. They need their own food service. And then you've got a simulation bay that will have flight simulators in there for the students to be able to train on those simulators. And then we've got an area of briefing rooms on the left, a series of 50 rooms that are required for each of these students that are about to go on a flight to do a pre-flight briefing and a post-flight briefing. And because there's so many of them and those are kind of private discussions, they need their own individual rooms. The main piece is the dispatch area, which is where the students will get their planes, literally get the keys to the plane, get the manual for that plane, and do their studying that they need to do before they take it out on flight. The second floor consists of a lounge area for the faculty and the students to mingle while they're relaxing, while they're studying, and to also take a separate kind of break if they want to bring their own lunch with them. But there's a lot of interesting commingling with the faculty and the students here, especially being remote, and with what they do flying planes together, they're together a lot. So the mixing lounge was desired. Area for the flight instructors on the right, and then administration offices and evaluation rooms on the left. The evaluation rooms are kind of end of semester rooms to discuss with the students how their semester went. You see some renderings here as well inside of the lounge area. And then the hangar, just a very large hangar, a pre-engineered manufactured building with some offices on the plan south, and then a receiving and storage area for the campus being built into that hangar for a lot of the parts that are needed on a regular basis. And there's just a view of the hangar from both sides. This is a view of the flight operations building. Again, you see the dark metal panel main 2-story spine, kind of announcing that the grandness of this building. Utilizing metal panel materials on this project, because we're away from the main campus, we're able to get a different kind of material palette and to be forward-thinking with an aerospace type of program. And a large prominent MTSU aerospace will be put into the metal panels to show all the passersby on the highway MTSU has a presence here at the airport. This is a view from the air side where the apron is going to be. You see the dispatch area at the bottom and an overlook balcony on the top. This is a view higher up from the apron side to where you see the 141 hangar next to the flight operations building. And then a view from the land side. We are on budget and we are estimated to start construction this spring, to be completed spring of 27, to move in for classes fall of 27.
You mentioned you're on budget.
Mhm.
Good,
Yes.
good. We have a lot of problems with that. How many students will you?
For the first phase, there'll probably be anywhere from 100 to 200 students to start out with the flight. Excuse me. Close to 1,000 for the first phase. Down the road with future phases, add about another 100, 150 more. But in time, they want this to be a full campus for the program.
And this is single engine?
Yes.
Okay. Any further questions?
I'll move approval.
Proper motion properly seconded.
If I may, before you call for the vote.
You may.
Thank you. I just want to note, I believe Speaker Pro Tem Marsh is here in support of this item. Just wanted the minutes to reflect his presence today.
Further discussion? Hear none. All in favor, say aye. Opposed, nay. You adopt. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item, Middle
Next,
Tennessee again.
yes, next we have a number of items for the Tennessee Board of Regents, and we have Executive Director Dick Tracy here to present these items.
Good morning, Lieutenant Governor.
Good
members.
morning.
Our first item is for the approval of a project utilizing construction manager, general contractor, alternative delivery method, and proceeding with the process to select a designer for the new parking structure at Middle Tennessee State University. This was a project disclosed in their budget and will be funded with TSSBA school bonds.
Move to approve.
Proper motion, properly seconded. Discussion? Hear none, all in favor, say aye. Opposed, nay. You adopt.
Thank you. Our next two items are for Tennessee State University. They're two early design phase reviews. I'd like to present both these items, let them do the presentation, and then act on. The first item is for the approval of revision and project budget and funding, and for the early design phase for the Agricultural, Food, and Animal Science Facility at Tennessee State University. Our second item is for the approval of the early design phase for the Agricultural Environmental Science Facility at Tennessee State University. Mr. Chairman, please recognize Mr. Bart Klein from Klein Sweeney Associates and Mr. Chip Jones from the Orcutt Winslow, who will be presenting both these projects jointly.
Thank you.
Hello, Commission. Glad to be here. My name is Bart Klein with Klein Sweeney Associates. I'm accompanied today by Chip Jones, who will come up and present later on as we get into the presentation. The project is for the School of Agriculture. This is two separate projects in one building. Klein Sweeney is the designer for the Agricultural, Food, and Animal Science Facility, while Orcutt Winslow is the designer for Environmental Science Facility. The project is located on the corner of Dr. Walter S. Boulevard and Schrader Lane. It's at the perimeter of the TSU campus and overlooks the TSU farm. The site has roughly a 40-foot elevation change from Dr. Walter S. Boulevard to the south portion of this image. To reduce on-site export cost, we have benched the building inside the hillside so the lower level of the building is also retained in earth. The main entry for the building for students is off of Schrader Lane, identified as number 4 on the slide. And as they enter the site, they hit a plaza, a student commons area, identified as item 2. To the south of that image, you have dedicated parking, identified as item 3 for employees and professors. We've also planned for the future sensory lab that'll happen at a later date, is identified in item 5. The light blue color is the animal side of the building, and the dark blue is the environmental side of the building. As we look at the lower level, you can see how the building is benched into the hillside. The way the building is organized as you go up each floor is everything on the left side is animal science, everything on the right side is environmental, and then there's shared common spaces that are shared amongst both programs that is centrally located. As we move to the main floor of the building, the first floor, as you enter off the side of the two arrows, one for students and other for employees and professors, you enter into a 2-story atrium space, which is the rendering on the bottom left-hand corner. This is the organizational means for horizontal and vertical circulation to get you to all the different major points of the building. In dark purple on the bottom of this image is the admin space for animal science. And on the left wing in blue is the research labs for animal science. And to the right is the research labs for environmental. Centrally located, the items in yellow are multi-purpose rooms, lecture rooms that are shared amongst both programs. As we move to the second floor, same format. On the left, we have animal science. On the right, we have environmental. You enter into the 2-story atrium space, and here we have admin functions for animal in the purple area south of the image. I'm going to turn it over to Chip to discuss the exteriors of the remaining presentation.
Thank you, Bart, and good morning.
Good morning.
So materials used for the buildings include brick, stone, and metal panels, all building from the existing palette found on TSU's main campus. This view displays the main entrance to the facility from Schrader Lane, with the Food and Animal Science Lab wing to the left the entry lawn in the foreground, and the administrative wing to the right. Most of the labs have north-facing views overlooking Walter S. Davis Boulevard and TSU's farm beyond. In this view, the Agriculture Environmental Science Lab wing is to the left, a shared balcony with outdoor classrooms below, or an outdoor classroom below in the center, and the Food and Animal Science Lab wing to the right. For the Food and Animal Science facility, the opinion of cost is $35,591,816 with a bid target of $35,600,000 and an MACC of $37,450,000. The Agriculture Environmental Science facility absorbs the site work for both projects, so the costs are broken out with the opinion of cost for site at $3,720,078, and for the building at $22,268,546, all totaling $25,988,624. The bid target for the project is $26 million, and the MACC is $27,300,000. Providing a high-level view of the project schedule, notice to proceed for completion of CDs was given the end of November to both design teams, and the anticipated completion of construction documents is the end of January. Anticipated notice to proceed for construction is April of 2025, with substantial completion being August of 2026. That concludes our presentation.
Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Properly moved and seconded, and discussion. Comptroller,
I'll defer to the treasurer.
Mr. Chairman,
Treasurer Lillard.
I just wanted to ask Mr. Tracy, in terms of the bid process for this particular project, we're working off a designer's estimate at the moment, right? Right where we are, then. Right. Okay, you got two different separate estimates and all that, but before this project proceeds, I want to make sure that once the construction documents are completed in January and everything, that we look at them again to make sure that we're all in agreement that it can be built for the amount of money that's in the budget presently. As you know, as Lieutenant Governor alluded to in a prior matter and everything, we have some instances where the estimates involved the actual construction cost that's ultimately determined is different, and there's a shortage that has to be made up. And I want to make sure that we don't, to the extent that we can do that on the front end, make sure we don't have that happen here in this case.
Yes, sir. We wouldn't proceed on unless we had the funding. And working with Dr. Reddy over all these years, and these projects are typically funded with grant money that he understands. If there is a need for additional money, it's usually money that he gets through federal grants. We've never come back to the state to request more money for one of the ag projects that he's got funded through federal money.
Okay, but in this case, I'd like for you to also review the plans with the state architect to make sure that that's the case going forward at the time when we're going to proceed. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So, and if any further approvals are needed, then we'll take that up at that point. Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Comptroller Mumpower, and then.
Thank you very much, and I appreciate the treasurer's comments. And again, it's my understanding this project is funded through federal dollars and through money appropriated in the 22-23 state budget.
That's correct, sir.
And reiterating what the treasurer asked, if any costs for this project at any point exceed the amount appropriated, that you come back here for approval before any more work is done.
That's correct, sir. The building commission requires for me to increase the MACC, I would have to come back before this body for that approval.
Whether that is more federal grants.
Yes, sir. That is correct.
Or more state dollars.
That's correct.
Thank you very much.
Secretary of State.
Thank you, Governor. Just in keeping with making sure we recognize state legislators when they attend, we have Senator Charlene Oliver in the audience today, and also Representative Harold Love Jr., who is also the new president of the National Conference of Black State Legislators. So congratulations to you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Further comments? We'll be voting on both projects. I think we can take them together. And that's with the understanding that you will come back if the money exceeds the amount in the project.
Yes, sir.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. You adopt.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tracy. Next item, Ms. Ann.
Next, we have an item for the Department of Finance Administration, and we have Deputy Commissioner Eugene Newbert here to present this item.
Good morning, Lieutenant Governor, Speaker, members. FNA has one item today requesting approval of a modification to the Memphis Tourist Development Zone. The city is seeking to move the location of the hotel qualified public use facility to 250 North Main Street, which is the Sheraton Hotel attached to the convention center, as the Lowe's Hotel that was contemplated in the December 17th, 2018 action by the executive subcommittee was not constructed. I want to mention three important items to note for the record, and then with your permission, Mayor Young is here who can briefly discuss the project and answer any questions. First, I want to be clear, this modification will not increase the size of the tourist development zone, nor will it extend the duration of the TDZ with respect to the state's portion of sales taxes within the zone that are carved out and retained by the city. There is a statute that will allow the city to retain the local portion of taxes that are associated with the hotel for 30 years once the hotel begins acting as that QPUF, but it will not affect the state portion, which are set to expire. It's either 2030 or 2031. Second, the proposed project to renovate the hotel will require issuance of some bond debt in the future, which must be reviewed and approved by the state funding board. That request and approval is separate and apart from any action that this body takes, meaning that the funding board is not bound by this approval. They will review the item on its merits at the time that it is presented to the funding board. And third, regarding the bonds and the motion that we would seek, FNA and the Comptroller's Office have reviewed the preliminary finances that were submitted with this request and would ask that this body consider making the approval of this modification request contingent on the city agreeing that any bonds issued in connection with the hotel that use any taxes apportioned and distributed pursuant to TCA 788-106 for the repayment in whole or in part of those bonds shall also contain a general obligation pledge by the city for repayment of those bonds. So with that, Mr. Speaker, with your permission, Mayor Young is here. He can talk specifics about the project and then answer any questions.
Thank you. Mayor Young, glad to have you with us.
Glad to be here. Thank you all for allowing us to be here to present this item. As noted, this is an important project for us. You may have heard that the city recently acquired the Sheraton Hotel due to the fact that it was getting ready to be auctioned off. We wanted to be very proactive in our approach as we look to grow the city of Memphis and downtown Memphis specifically. This is a property that is literally connected to our convention center, in which we invested $200 million recently. And we want to make sure that this property is protected moving forward. Despite what some may think, we are not getting into the hotel business. We are going to work with individuals that are experienced in that space to manage the hotel as we work with a development team to ultimately get this property back online at its highest form. Right now, I think they have about 400 of the 600 rooms that are available, and we want to make sure that all of the rooms are available and high quality. This property, last thing I'll say, is really, really important towards our long-term goals. If you know the geography of Memphis, you know it's on the northern end of downtown. Just to the north of it is St. Jude. St. Jude has recently acquired some significant blocks within the Pinch District, which is adjacent to their facility, as they have been making a $9 billion investment in their space, thanks to the support from you all. They are also looking to have an impact outside of the gates, which is in the Pinch District, which is just to the north of this property. And it's also connected to the broader narrative of redeveloping all of downtown in connection with the Grizzlies and the support that you all have given us there. And so this is part of a broader effort that we believe is going to solidify downtown Memphis for many years to come. And certainly welcome any questions that you might have.
Motion on the item.
It's proper motion, properly seconded.
Mr. Speaker.
I might note that Leader Senator Ackberry is here and in support of the project and has
Vigorously
Two.
giving thumbs up.
two thumbs. Yes,
Could I don't know if I'm on, but
Commissioner.
I was, okay. I just want to clarify the motion, make sure the motion was the motion that was suggested by Deputy Commissioner Newbert, and that is the motion that we are voting on, correct?
That is.
Correct, thank you.
Further discussion? See none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. You adopt. Thank you, Mayor. Next items.
Next, I'd like to request approval of the minutes of the State Building Commission meeting, which was held on November 14th, 2024.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Properly moved and seconded. Discussion. Hear none, no corrections or additions. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. You adopt.
Next, I'd like to request approval of modifications to the SBC bylaws, policies, and procedures. These include revisions to Section 204, 2.04.e, 5.01.a, 7.01.f, 8.01.a. Those are the revised sections.
Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Proper motion, properly seconded. Discussion. Hear none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. You approve. Next item is, I believe,
The report items. I'd like to report items approved by the Office of the State Architect in accordance with the SBC bylaws, policies, and procedures. These include 4 change orders, 4 capital projects with total project costs of between $100,000 and $1 million, 2 approvals of a construction manager general contractor, and 1 acquisition of land. I'd also like to report 5 designer additional services requests as submitted by Stream, and the quarterly report of the advisory board for the Metro Nashville District Energy System. These are the report items.
I'll deem those reports accepted. Next item.
Next, I'd like to present President Dwayne Tucker with Tennessee State University to give a financial condition update for the Tennessee State University.
Mr. Tucker, glad to have you with us.
Well, it's good to be here. Can you hear me okay? Yeah.
You're on.
First of all, let me just say thanks for the movement of those 2 facilities, buildings on campus. What TSU needs really right now is some positive news. So I also want to say I appreciate the support the state has provided, Tennessee State, especially with the resources and some financial support, because without that, end of November, we will probably be out of cash. So that has been very helpful to the university. This is very positive news. By way of introduction, I'm a Nashville native, grew up here, went to public schools, graduated from Tennessee State 1980, which makes me pretty old. But I appreciate the opportunity to serve as the interim president for TSU, and I'm looking forward to moving forward. I think the first area of focus has to be addressing some of the most recent changes, because as you've noticed, the group here today is probably different than the group that was here last month. What I want to do is provide some stability to the university in terms of resources, and that's the only way we're going to be able to move forward. And I think the bigger issue that needs to be done is because prior leadership to some degree has created this narrative about funding that could potentially come from the state. And I think it's safe, and either one of you can correct me, but I don't think there's a accounts payable to Tennessee State for $2.1 billion. So a lot of our constituents and supporters, we got to get a better understanding of how we got to where we are, but more importantly, what's really required for the university to focus on so that we can put together a credible plan and come back to you and seek some additional assistance for Tennessee State. I'm not ready to do that today because one thing I've learned in my 40 years of experience is your own credibility. And when I come to you with a recommendation, it should combine what we think are reasonable goals for us in terms of financial support, but it also should have some accountability that we can stand behind as well. And without that, it's probably going to take me, at least with the holidays, at least another month to put together a plan that I think would be comprehensive enough in terms of cash requirements with some degree of contribution that the university can make towards solving some of our cost issues that we have. And I'm looking forward to doing that. And it's a good opportunity to introduce myself to many of you, but I'll be glad to take any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Discussion. The financial exigency, the boards failed to enact that. And even though it's not, might not be used, isn't it a good safeguard to have, a good tool to have in your hands as you go forward?
At some point, I would agree, yes. But right now, I don't think that's ever been presented to the board to vote on. I do think it needs to be part of the overall understanding of what our financial needs are. I think right now, in terms of a cash flow perspective, we're at least good through April of next year. But I think the comprehensive plan I'm talking about, everything should be on the table, including that. And I think if that's something that makes sense for us to do after we come up with our view of what the needs are and what decisions we need to make internally and run in terms of adjusting our cost structure and going through every department within the university to determine what areas that we could either eliminate some things and reduce some costs, that should be part of that conversation. Right now, I just don't know enough to tell you that that's the right thing for the board to approve right now, but it should be on the table with a lot of other options as well.
Won't you run out of money in May?
Yeah, but I do think if we put together the right plan, that plan can be executed efficiently and effectively where we can mitigate some of that expense before we get there. So I'm pretty comfortable that we can put together a plan that all of you would see as somewhat credible moving forward. I just don't want to make a commitment around that right now without challenging ourselves to come up with other options to reduce some of our costs.
But you don't feel you could enact a plan without the exigency, do you?
I don't want to rule that out. That's the only point I'm trying to communicate on that one, is that should be on the table. Whether or not we do that now or at the beginning of end of January, I need to work through and ensure that what I would call all of the opportunities have been evaluated to adjust our cost structure without pulling the trigger on that. And if we have to pull the trigger on that, that's something we should talk about. I'm just not willing to put it on the table right now.
But if you do enact it, you might not have to use it. Is that correct?
I'm not sure. I haven't talked to the lawyers about that, but so I don't have an answer for you on that one.
My understanding is that you can enact it and still not use it, just have it available.
You know, I would like to know that option. My challenge right now is, as I indicated, and I'm not trying to make an excuse about anything, because at the end of the day, we all got to be accountable from the state and from Tennessee State University. But given the change in the general counsel's role, given the change in the CFO who announced his resignation, and I walked right in to understanding that, along with some other changes, we have to, I think it's incumbent on us to really look deep across the organization and then figure out how we adjust the university to meet the current projections around enrollment. There's a lot of opportunity at TSU to become more efficient. But in order to move that ahead with a sense of urgency is that I just need to spend a few weeks after the holidays getting in front of everybody talking about the real financial requirements for the university and what the university has to contribute to that. Until that happens, it's sort of like moving a snowball uphill because people don't believe there's a sense of urgency to get to some of these things. I do think bringing in some additional resources that have the expertise to hit the ground running will help improve that and move it up faster. And I'm in the process now of trying to find 3 or 4 experienced executives, including the CFO, that can come in and immediately make a difference, because at some point, the resources being provided to the state is only for a limited period of time. We have to begin to figure out and put processes in place and making decisions and making the hard calls about what we need to do to adjust our overhead for the footprint that we have today. To me, your question is part of that same conversation. I'm just not ready to say I'm going to move out with that now without understanding the implications associated with that. And to your point, you can get it approved and maybe just hold it if needed. That is an option. I just don't have the preview of that to say it's something I want to commit to today.
And as far as enrollment, there have been problems in the past with enrolling a large number of students who weren't really qualified, either qualified by the national exams, the ACT or SAT, or qualified through having a high school diploma. Have we made significant changes in the enrollment process to prevent that from happening?
We have made some changes in that, and I would agree that we sort of stretched some of the limits in terms of enrollment in those who were qualified to be in a 4-year college versus maybe a 2-year organization. But what keeps me up at night in the first 24 hours of my new job is to get down a little deeper into the organization to make sure some of the foundational and the basic kind of things like financial aid and how we're awarding scholarships to and funding for students, the process needs a lot of work. And I think if we can put the right resources on there coming out of this year and starting differently in January, we can pick up some momentum and get a lot of things done in a short period of time. I'm very comfortable about attracting successful executives who can come in and help speed that process up. And I think we're going to have to be very specific about the 1A, the 1B, and the 1C, and the 1D. That's important because you can't work all of those at the same time. And I think the key to that is bringing in some additional resources that can help go down the organization to ensure and validate that the processes and things like you're talking about have actually been fixed. My bigger concern is I'd like to have validation of that myself before I can get in front of you and say, for sure, we're not accepting kids who aren't ready for a 4-year college at Tennessee State University.
Oh, thank you. Further questions? Comptroller Mumpower.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair and members. And Mr. Tucker, thank you personally for first being willing to serve on this Board of Trustees and for being willing to step up in this way. In fact, I thank and appreciate all of you who are here who serve on the Board of Trustees. I also have great appreciation for the decision you made as a board to dismiss your prior general counsel. I think that was a very positive decision. To dismiss your prior CFO, I think that's a very positive decision. And to work with the Attorney General's office to cancel the contract of the previous president, who has made out like a bandit while leaving only a legacy of dysfunction. Are you, as a university and a board, finished with your association with the previous president in every way?
Yes.
No parking places, no Titans football tickets, no building naming, completely finished?
I am, yes.
Yes. We have the vice chairman of the board present. Would you like to address that question as well?
I probably should have checked with him first since he's an attorney. But
If you will identify yourself for the record.
Yes, I'm Charles Trauber, Vice Chair of the Tennessee State University Board of Trustees. Thank you for the question, Comptroller Mumpower. Good evening, good morning to all the commissioners and Lieutenant Governor McNally. Your question was, are we finished with the relationship with the prior
Yes.
president, Glenda Glover?
Yes, in any way whatsoever.
My understanding is that matter is the source of potential litigation.
Mhm.
So I will refer you to the Attorney General's office if you have any questions.
Not
related to
speaking about the contract, you as a trustee, I want to hear your personal judgment. Are you finished with that association?
I'm finished with that association. I'm looking forward to moving forward. with the
Thank you. I
university.
am too.
Yes.
One quick question, and I don't know which one of you to direct it to, but I think it's important in particular that the taxpayers of Tennessee understand the situation. At your last Board of Trustees meeting, you acknowledged that if things go perfectly, the state provided you money to get through the end of this calendar year. And then if things go perfectly for you with enrollment and tuition and financial aid, you believe you have enough money to make it through, I thought mid-May, but you said today, April.
April, May.
Well,
Yeah.
that's rough. So what we're saying is if things go perfectly, you have enough money to make it through April or May. Well, your payroll alone is $18 million a month. So let's say you have enough money to make it through mid-May. That means you have an $18 million payroll expense in June and a $9 million payroll expense for half of May. So that's $27 million. Plus, you think about your other operational costs, it's in the range of $40 million. However, if you only have enough money to make it through April, that's $58 to $60 million that you need from the state of Tennessee in order just to stay open through June 30. And that is, of course, money that this legislature basically, when you had your trustee meeting and you acknowledged that you knew you only had enough money to make it through April or May, yet you didn't take the step to declare fiscal exigency. What you basically said is, well, we know the legislature will make up. We know the taxpayers of Tennessee will make up this slack. In essence, whether you said that directly, that's the message, if you understand.
Yeah.
And so I think what we're looking for, particularly, and if you go back to the Lieutenant Governor's questions, we need an outward sign of an inward understanding, because the taxpayers of Tennessee are not called upon to bail out any other university, community college, TCAT in this state the way we've been called on to bail out TSU, primarily because of the poor judgment exhibited by the prior president and the cabinet members of that prior president. Your alumni and the public have been misled greatly by the previous president, and the taxpayers. Everybody needs to understand. I mean, this is a question of whether Tennessee State University will even be able to continue to be open. Because in order for Tennessee State to continue to be open, it's going to take a bailout. And we just haven't seen the sign that you're ready to face that head on. There's no way out of this without laying more people off. And that's a sad thing to talk about anytime. But you've got to reduce that monthly payroll number. And I've seen the letter we received from Chair Winton, who I know and appreciate, and I've heard you today, and you say, we just need more time. We just need a few more weeks. We need a month. We need 2 months to figure it out. Well, you know, every month is at least $18 million in payroll. So I don't know if that's a question or a monologue.
But it's a great monologue and statement.
But I mean, I hope it connects with you, with all of you. And I mean, what's the way out? I don't know. We haven't yet talked about Avon Williams. We haven't yet talked about the airport property. So I'll come back to that, Mr. Chair, after giving an opportunity here.
You want me to respond to the monologue or you?
Sure.
Okay.
That would be good.
I'm gonna go back to my point that I tried to explain earlier. I don't disagree with the math that you just said. In my experience, I've turned around, $500 billion companies kind of thing. So I understand the math and the steps that you have to take in ownership. Heck, I live in Tennessee too. I'm a taxpayer. And if you go back to Lee Public Schools, which is my other day job I volunteered for some time ago, my mantra was that we had to be good stewards of the taxpayer funding because it's their treasure. So with that, I think it's incumbent, and to be able to answer your question, I just don't want to stand up and say I have confidence on anything. We're currently working a 3-year model with some very conservative kind of estimates around enrollment and making some changes and potentially around costs and payroll and those things. I'd rather come to you with the full piece of pie kind of thing and then say, okay, how does that work for you kind of thing? And in that everything should be on the table around that conversation. And some of that resides with us making some hard decisions in terms of taking out costs and other ways to monetize facilities that we potentially have. To me, all of that has to be on the table for discussion. And that can be part of the conversation that we have. All I'm asking is that, hey, I can't speak for everybody else in the past. I can just speak for me going forward. And that is, I think I'm going to be one of the few working through Christmas and New Year's, but working with our resources. And I think we're about 3 to 4 weeks away from finalizing that model. And that's counting the time off for the holidays in there too, right? And then come back with a more comprehensive plan. And I think that would be fair. Then you can tell me how you really feel about that. Well, that will be addressing the things that you just discussed in the very well done summary. I don't disagree with them. I just can't sit and articulate that I got a plan for those right now.
Sure. And I appreciate.
But I'm not saying that to dodge it.
I appreciate that very much. And I don't think you are, and can already tell. I mean, you're more forthright and clear than anyone we've seen in a long, long, long time. And I appreciate that. Getting back to, I think, a point that the Lieutenant Governor made is, sometimes you work on a project and you need a lot of tools in your toolbox. You might not need to pick up that tool. But in my mind, fiscal exigency is a tool you must have. I think you're going to have to use it because you've got to reduce your payroll numbers. And that includes laying off faculty, eliminating low performing programs. And again, this legislature and the Tennessee public need that outward sign of an inward understanding. And so I would encourage you all to look at that very soon.
Yeah, and that plan will include that conversation so that the taxpayers could feel comfortable about, if you want to call it the ask kind of thing associated with what we really think that we need. Because I don't think you guys want us coming up here every 3 or 4 months asking for some additional funds. That doesn't work either. So at the same time, the way I look at it is that if you look at Tennessee State University, if you just cover the cash flow piece that you're talking about to some degree, you still got to modernize the dormitories and others, because most students will say, well, I still don't want to come to a 40-year-old campus kind of thing. So it has to be a combination of both of those things. I think TSU has to invest into the right technology. And one of the things hopefully I can bring to this, time will tell, is some consistency in terms of what we say we're going to do, we actually do. And with that, I think there's a balance around the economics of that. If you take what the current interim president was making before I stepped in, added to just the CFO, annually is probably about $700,000. What I'm trying to do is go find me a few executives that I've worked with in the past who have the skill set. One of them could be the former CI of Deloitte in terms of the chief technology officer. That's what we need to have to come into the organization. And I think my credibility, knock on wood, is still out there. And there are going to be people who want to come and work alongside with myself and do it at a discount. just like me. If you're not aware, I'm not taking any salary while I'm in this role.
No, thank you. Thank you for that.
Because that helps. It's a little bit way away from your 18 million,
Sure,
but it's 17 million and some change.
sure. You know, what you said about the state of the central campus, the home campus, is a perfect segue for my questions about the Avon Williams campus and about the 25 acres out at the John Tune Airport. At the airport, there's an active offer for more than $9 million for a 25-acre piece of property that's never been utilized other than to store junk vehicles or junk property. I hope that you're pursuing that. In addition, there are, I think, multiple people interested in purchase or long-term lease of all or part of the Avon Williams campus. As I said last month, it doesn't make sense when your main campus is in such poor shape to own these surplus properties that are also taking upkeep and maintenance. You've got to reorient and refocus and retool for this main campus to serve the student population that you have. Any thoughts on that other than what you may have already said?
I don't disagree. I do think, to me, I go back to finishing up what that model is that we want to present to you in terms of, I'm going to go with 3 years. All right. In terms of here's the enrollment projections through that presentation. There's no way I can get in front of any of you and say with a straight face that for illustration purposes only, if it's only 6,100 students at Tennessee State, I made up that number, and that can be accommodated on the downtown campus, sure, that should be part of the conversation, because if you don't have enough students to occupy both buildings, then that's something that we could potentially consider at the right price and the right partnership to help offset some of that cost associated. And more importantly, I would think for the taxpayer, that would be in the best interest of the taxpayer to ensure that we are making those difficult conversations. I just don't know enough yet about if we're at the tip of the iceberg, is actually bigger below the waterline. I just need a few more weeks to drill down, understand how those challenges are, because when I come to you, I'm gonna come to you with my credibility and say, here's my recommendation. And I think if we do that in the right way, you'll see the trade-offs along the way. And the fact that we would be accountable for making some tough decisions, because we're gonna have to do that to be sustainable over time anyway. So I just don't wanna litigate that right now. If the commissioners were not asking for April, not asking to get back to you in March, but sometime very soon to talk very specific about the things that we believe are in the best interest of Tennessee State.
Would you have that available in January?
I got to talk to the consultant. One thing that's challenged about TSU is that we got a whole lot of consultants. So I need time we got some great ones that's helping us on the financial controls and things of that nature. So I don't want to confirm. When is the next time you're going to meet?
Next month.
What time?
Is Alvarez and Marcel still working with you?
Still working with us and doing a
Still
great
working
job.
with us.
Yeah. And they're the one working on the model.
When's our next meeting at?
Our next meeting is January 9th, which might be a little quick for
Quite
the
early.
amount of time he was talking about. And our February meeting is on the 13th.
Yeah.
What about the February meeting?
What about February meeting?
February 13th.
I'll be ready.
You'll be ready.
Yes.
Okay.
And Mr. Chair,
Speaker?
over the past couple months, the previous orientation have met regularly with Commissioner Bryson and me and our teams. And I would very much like you to continue to do that, if you will.
That'll be good.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Speaker Sexton.
Thank you, Lieutenant Governor. Real quick, just for reference, since you did reference the $2.1 billion, I think there was also, it wasn't anybody who was in this room today, but there was a newspaper or article, I don't know if it was in the TV or station or the newspaper, but there was a comment made by a member of the General Assembly that said the $2.1 billion was federal auditors and state auditors agreed with them. And the state auditors part was not the accurate part of that statement in that news story. Actually, the state auditors determined it was about $554 million. The Biden-Harris administration determined it was $2.1 billion. So there's discrepancies there amongst the two bodies. And then which led to the question that we had to the state budget office, because we wanted to go back and look at the historical perspective of funding for TSU through previous administrations. And so when you look at Governor Haslam and Governor Lee in 14 years, because Governor Lee's not finished with his second term yet, so we got 2 more years left. But it appears that Governor Haslam and Governor Lee have appropriated more state dollars than the previous 4 governors over a 32-year period, to the tune of over $1 billion of what state funding has increased. Governor Lee has actually increased TSU funding, operational funding in the 6 years by over $10 million. He's actually put together capital funding to the tune of $321 million. And his administration has actually will probably double what Governor Haslam did in his 8 years compared to Governor Haslam's 8 years. And so I think as the media is here and as they're writing this story, a lot of times there's conversations and it's led to believe that the Republican majority has not done its job in funding TSU. And I think you go back and you look over the records in the last 14 years, there has been great emphasis due to the leadership of Representative Love and others who have come to Governor Haslam and Governor Lee and put different things on the table that we have funded. And we have put money forth, just like the $40 million to help plug the gap, which we may have to come back in, I think, to Comptroller Mumpower's question, potentially, and look at maybe adding more money, which then kind of goes into it. But when you look at the amount of money, people can say sufficient or not sufficient, but over the last 14 years compared to 32, I think that's worthy of a news story of how much money has gone to TSU. Now, I will say, as you go forward, you have a tall task. You really do. And I appreciate all the things that you all have done, the board, as well as you and your predecessor who started the process, I guess, to go ahead and try to right the ship. And it's going to take a long time to right the ship. It really is. But I think to everybody's concern up here is I don't know how you can right the ship without doing certain things, whether you use it or not, and setting the stage for you. I'm not gonna tell you. I get what you said. 4 different times you said the same thing. You're gonna wait until you get there. I understand. But at the same time, everything has to be on the table. If you have enrollment that's dropped 25% and you're close to 7,000 students now or less, I think, the overhead is just not keeping up with the revenue. Right. And so, but I just wanted to make the point today that when we look at funding, that Governor Lee has done a tremendous job of supporting TSU, done a tremendous job of trying to work with the board and put people on the board that he thinks were quality to do the job. And so I appreciate your willingness to come today to address us. I appreciate your willingness to be here to address us. But I didn't want the record to go unreflected of what the last 14 years have been compared to the last 32 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Speaker. Further discussion. Commissioner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to say one thing real quickly. There's a lot of points that have been made here, and I think they're valid points and good points. I want to thank you for taking this role on. As I understand it, although you've been on the board, this is your first day as president. And so we hope that days from here on out will get easier than they are today. But I want to thank you for your service. And I also want to join the comptroller in thanking you for your communication style. You come across as someone who speaks directly, and I think that's what we need and what we're looking for. I do look forward to meeting with you. I see some folks on your team here that we've been meeting with, and look forward to meeting with you going forward as we figure out what the financial future for TSU looks like. We believe that TSU can be a preeminent HBCU and university in the state, and we're looking forward to working with you to get it there. And thank you for the posture that you bring, and I'm looking forward to working with you.
I can only be me. So, but no, I appreciate those comments, and I look forward to engaging with everybody up on the bench there to discuss how we can make TSU sustainable as a university going forward. And I think from a distance, you can say it is daunting in terms of everything that needs to get fixed. I look at it as an opportunity to do some things differently. So to me, we will come back with a financial model and some recommendations in order to achieve stability and work with the state on that. But at the same time, we have to ensure that the university, as we move forward, understands the tough decisions that we have to make so we can be viable going forward. And I think in order to get there, I got to show up all of the, what I call stakeholders. I'm not asking anybody to agree to everything I say, but we can't go around with a divided community that half of them believes that we shouldn't be doing anything other than waiting on a bailout to, okay, we need to get busy doing some things differently. In my view, that means that we have to be more direct around communications, and we should continue to reinforce those needs to all of those stakeholders. Just like you made the point about what the governor has done. All my meetings I'm gonna have with staff and others and alumni, we're gonna start off with the financials and where we are, and then what's required to move us to the next phase. If we don't do that, and then also share with some of the progress, if we just sit there and look at the news circle, everything's falling apart. So part of it is lifting the engagement of everybody in the community that want to support TSU. And that's what I'm gonna be doing over the next few weeks to get that out there. Now, I'm not asking for 100% of people to believe everything I say, but it's got to get closer to 80%, or we're gonna be fighting within ourselves, and we're never gonna get to where we really want to be. And then plus, it just creates a whole lot of drama that distracts away from doing the actual work itself that needs to be done. So I'm all about the work that needs to be done. All right.
Further questions? I see none. I think you're aware of both the stance of the legislature as well as this board in the need to enact financial exigency. And we'll see you in February. Thank you.
Thank you.
Further business.
We have no further business for the commission.
Move we adjourn.
Proper motion, properly second. All in favor, say aye. Opposed, nay. You adopt. Thank you.
So we're just going to make sure that the tape starts and this one ends and the next one begins before we start the EFC meeting. I'll let you know when we're ready for that.
Thank you.